details for you as personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service continue to battle an inferno at a dome in Kumasi which has razed shops down.
Also coming up this afternoon, environment NGOs question Ghana's continued celebration of World Forest Day as vast tracts of vegetation is lost to illegal mining and logging.
And Ghana's Black Stars play Chad tonight in a match many expect a win to make up for the failure to qualify for the AFCON, with the World Cup as well in the offing.
Well, it's Friday's edition of News Central. I'm Kemeni Amano.
And I am Mawena Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now. This afternoon, we're starting from the Ashanti region, where personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service are still in an uphill task fighting an inferno which has ravaged large parts of buildings at a dome in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi. Anguish, a sense of hopelessness, is what has taken center stage all through the morning up until now as the ravaging fire continues to spread, destroying shops, as you're seeing on your screens right now. The Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amwakohene, has been to the scene of the fire where fire service personnel are still struggling to bring the blaze under control, with 2 firefighters reportedly suffering injuries as well. Here's a report my colleague William Evans Inkum brought through a while back in relation to what the situation was some few hours ago.
The Akwesi Agyemang building is also down, and now the fire is spreading pretty fast. More than 200 shops so far have been gutted. And as you can see, some of the shop owners are still trying very hard to salvage few things that they could before the fire spread to this particular place. So it is only this place that is yet to be touched as far as the ravaging fire is concerned. But even with that, they are not safe. You can see how fast and wild the fire is spreading. And at this point, the fire service was unable to enter this particular scene because there's no accessibility. So they are only fighting from just in front of the Hello FM building, which is currently the only building standing, and it is not even guaranteed that it will be touched. If you look at how quickly the fire is spreading as far as proximity is concerned. But for the Akwesi Agyemang building, they are all gone. The building is all gone. When the fire started about an hour ago, as far as this particular place is concerned, this place was left untouched. But now you can see they are all gone. And people are running fast. People are running fast. So you can hear the pop sound. All right. Okay. So now they are wanting us to get out of here because even where we are, the footbridge, you still can feel some level of weakness as far as the footbridge is concerned. But let's come here. So you see, well, so this is the second phase of the KJTR redevelopment market, and I can tell you that the fire is also spreading to the project sites. The entire KJTR Labour or Dunkirk Road is blocked. Fire everywhere. And the people here stand helpless. Mama, unyamashi.
That's all was Ruby one form. You told her there's a few ransom. And Ryan Yama, I could saw the more around there.
Well, it's a hard pill now. She's lost everything, she tells me. But this is a terrible situation now, and I can tell you that even the fire service, they have become helpless now because they are unable to access some of the places where fire is spreading to, and that is quite a situation for them at the moment.
And that's William Evansinkum, who came through with that report a while back. We understand that the situation is still quite dire. We'll connect with him shortly. We know as well that the NPP caucus in the early hours of today have released a statement in relation to the fire, demanding that investigations be carried out as promptly as possible. But let's try and bring you some detail with respect to fire incidents that have been reported in the Ashanti region. In just this year alone. And so in February of this year, there was fire at the Swami magazine, which destroyed 25 spare parts shops and 34 vehicles. And then earlier on in February as well, 2 separate fires between January and February at the Kwadaso Wood Market, reducing shops and warehouses to ashes as well. And then in March, we've seen the Konongo mining stores fire, which wiped out multiple businesses, and we know that that had to do with explosives there, which prompted the Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amwakuhini, to go there and demand for investigation and arrest of individuals who were hoarding explosives there as well, because my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar was there, which showed near craters which had been created as a result of some of the mining explosives there. Then we're having this massive fire at a Doom, and the videos which we've been sharing with you from the morning up until now shows a real difficulty for personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service to be able to fight that fire. But the NPP caucus as well, they are demanding that, amongst many other things, the fire service is facing significant challenges due to inadequate firefighting equipment, insufficient water supply, and a lack of personnel, hindering the effective response to dealing with the large scale of the fire which is currently being witnessed. And as well, they are standing in solidarity with the affected traders and are urging swift government intervention to equip the fire service, prevent future fire disasters. We're struggling with the connection with Evans via Zoom, but we can't speak to him right now via the phone lines and get a sense as to really what the development is. Evans, talk to us about the state of the fire as we speak. What can you report?
Well, Mona, so the firefighters have been able to douse the better portion of the affected areas. Now, what they are trying to deal with is the pocket of flames, which is still can be seen from the debris from few affected shops. That is what they are trying to douse entirely as far as this particular disaster is concerned. But I can tell you, Mona, the blue light market area has been reduced to ground zero. That is the situation now. And the former Apetia Demand building is also no more. Everything in that particular building has been bent. And of course, every block of that building has also been tossed. The only building surviving, if that's the right word to use, is the building that is open FM. That is the only surviving building as far as this enclave is concerned.
We know that initially the fire was contained in the upper section of the story building. How did it expand? Because we've also been hearing explosions, if we can call it that, or pop sounds from some of the videos which you shared with us earlier. Has the fire service been able to explain what noise we're hearing as the inferno continues to rage, and why we're seeing it spread so fast?
For now, they've not been able to tell us as to how the fire was able to spread about 500 meters away from where it started to other places. Of course, you're right. We heard pop sounds, and from a layman's point of view, we're likely to say that probably that one was coming from combustible materials stock in some of the shops. But we also hear it. It is also still on the fringes. It is not something that we can independently confirm. That some of the naked cables probably might have also, traveled the fire from the source to the other places. That is also another narrative that we are also getting. But these are all unconfirmed reports because they are not coming from the fire service or NADMO. They have been very economical with information. The primary focus now has been trying to evacuate some affected shop owners, and now we understand that about 4 people casualties or have suffered some degree of injuries that have been rushed to the Kumasi Teaching Hospital. We also know that 2 firefighters have also sustained some injuries. They've also been rushed to the Kumasi Teaching Hospital. So, you know, we are talking about approximately 6 people who have been affected by the current situation. But the movement of the fire is something that information about that is very scanty. But the bottom line is that there are certain places that were inaccessible to the firefighters not too long ago. The PRO of the fire service here in the Ashanti region, DHA, which are there, confirmed that to me that they were unable to access certain places to a contained situation. So, at more or less, they only did what they could. The extent of damage is huge, but they tell me that they were able to access some of the fire areas.
Evans, we also know just briefly as well that the regional minister has been there. Is he still around? What has he been saying with respect to what is happening right now?
Well, he has been here to empathize with affected shop owners. Of course, some of the people are blaming the government for letting now some have been suggested. And now I have seen some private private trucks carrying water, and they are here to also support the fire because look at the fire tenders here. They've run out of water. We have some hydrants here, but they've all been badly enclosed, so they are unable to tap water from even these hydrants. So back to the local minister, yes, we're here to empathize with the people. We are getting reports, even though we cannot independently confirm. We are getting reports that the president is likely to visit this particular place. The president is attending a program in the country, and there is about 25 or 30 kilometers away, 30 kilometers away from Adum, and we are getting a report that maybe, we cannot independently confirm, but maybe it's likely to pass. We already we've seen the Minister of Roads and Highways, Governance, Agada, who came here with the regional minister to empathize with the people. So we always say some government officials who have also been passing to just to really object or understand the situation and also empathize with the people. But I can tell you that some people are not so much confused about the fact that maybe we should have some truckers carrying water to also have the situation. But that was missing. And to them, maybe to them, a failure on the part of government.
Right then, Evans, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague William Evans Sinkum providing details there for us with respect to the fire incident. As you're hearing loud sirens continue to blast in the background as the fire personnel continuing their work. We know as well that the police are stationed seeking to bring the situation under control in stopping individuals from burgling some of the shops, amongst many other things. But there's a bit more with respect to this particular story, Kamini.
Absolutely. We're now going to hear from the Minister of the Interior, Muntaka Mubarak, who spoke in Parliament early this week on the need to retool the Ghana National Fire Service.
Mr. Speaker, the Ghana National Fire Service has a total workforce of 17,514 personnel. These personnel have been deployed throughout the country to perform various operational duties. However, the service lacks adequate and required modern firefighting logistics to confront fire outbreaks, as you can attest to recent fire outbreaks at several markets throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, to address the situation, the Ministry of Interior has earmarked the Ghana National Fire Service as one of the state institutions to be retooled. Effort will be put in place to replace all the old fire tenders with state-of-the-art multipurpose fire tender.
Let's have a quick chat on the back of these developments. Nanaya Akwada, PhD, is the Executive Secretary of the Bureau of Public Safety. Let's pick his thoughts quickly on this matter. Doc, I appreciate you talking to us, but another fire incident, only this time access routes to the fire is not the problem, but a lack of adequate tools to fight the fire. Your opinion on this matter?
Very good afternoon to you and to the rest of Ghanaians. I think it's a sad state of affairs, and for those of us in the space who have been running such public commentaries in the last decade plus, it's quite depressing because we see a recurring problem that we know we have the solution to, but we have simply, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, we have simply refused to take the needed steps to, stop this from happening, significantly reduce it from happening. Right, market fires are not new. We've gone as far as bringing in the FBI to come and investigate market fires in Ghana. Everybody who is watching in the space knows that these fires cost the nation tons of millions of dollars. Everybody knows that. Everyone knows that it costs the taxpayer money to resettle some of these people who lose their goods. Today, as we speak, I think your representative in Ashanti region mentioned that the president is going to Kumasi to do a program. Now he's had to spend, significant part of his time also visiting this location. That's productive time that could have been used elsewhere. Okay, so the cost of these market fires is no doubt significant on our nation building.
Absolutely.
One, let's look at the system in which we are operating for a situation that has, bedeviled us from over a decade. Why has it not been possible that either the Ministry of Housing, okay, I don't know whichever ministry it falls under, how is it that we have not been able to lead a promulgation of a policy that stipulates what should go into a market construction? I mean, I'm looking at this as a low-hanging fruit. Put together the Ghana Institute of Engineers, the Architectural Association, the National Safety Council. Let's put together a document that says every market structure that is springing up in this country must follow these standards.
Indeed.
And those standards are there. There are things we could build into it.
Indeed. And
passive fire protection systems.
I have
okay,
lost
look
count.
at how quickly this fire, yes.
I have lost count how many times. Indeed, very quickly it moved. And I've lost count how many times we've had this conversation. The Interior Minister in Parliament talks about the need to retool the Ghana National Fire Service. Is he tackling the problem from the wrong end?
Well, I'll say he's tackling the problem from really the tail end. The problem of Ghana National Fire Service, like most of our emergency response departments, is lack of strategic leadership. Okay, fighting fire is the last stage of the mandate of the Ghana National Fire Service. How come we want to focus on it as the premium? What happened to training? What happened to public education? All those things must be done. And if the fire service is, approaching this situation strategically, they would know that if I was the chief fire officer and I have targets for every region, that let's keep our fires down to this level in this year or this month. Whoever is the commander of that region is going to make sure that he puts his people out there to train, to do public education, to carry out intensive fire inspections, to make sure that fires do not occur. Now, if all the focus is on retooling, then we're providing avenues for people to profit off, the misery of other people. And I think that constant reference to retooling the fire service or retooling the police or retooling whatever state agency, it's important to retool them, but our focus must we have to refocus. We need to refocus. That there are other mandates of the fire service that we want them to focus on. The fire prevention is key.
Indeed.
The firefighting is the last stage, is after the facts.
I see. But Nanaya, just before we let you go, I want to talk about the traders themselves. What should they learn from the number of fires that we continue to record in our markets?
Look, there's something we call in safety decision to err factors. Okay, and one of that factor that makes people decide to do what they are not supposed to do is they have a false sense of exclusion, a false sense of invincibility. So every time that's why we have institutions. People always tend to think that it's not going to happen to me. That's why we have regulatory agencies, regulatory services like the fire service. Go there, inspect them, ensure that they are operating according to guidelines. They are operating according to the dictates of their spaces. They have fire extinguishers installed in place. When these things falter, people will not learn. I mean, it was just about 2 months or a month ago that we have Kantamanto burning down. How come Edumtu is burning down?
Absolutely.
And the same thing is going to happen in other places. So we need the fire service to go out there to educate the people and force what their allies mandate them to do. Then we can have some peace of mind.
Doc, I appreciate you talking to us. Thank you so much. Dr. Nanaya Akwada is a public safety expert.
Well, let's bring you some more stories right now, because some security experts have suggested that operatives of national security wear body cameras during operations. Now, it follows a recent search carried out in the home of the former Bank of Ghana Governor Ernest Addison, which resulted in alleged items being taken away. The operatives reportedly disabled the CCTV before conducting their search, but were hearing counter information also as well with respect to warrants being made available to Dr. Addison before his home was searched. Let's speak to security expert Colonel Festus retired Abuaje for a bit more with respect to this particular development and what the expectation is going forward. There's been those who've suggested there were ills done with respect to the activity which was carried out by the operatives of the national security. We know as well that the Deputy Attorney General has provided details. Dr. Sremsai has spoken that there was indeed a warrant, and that once there was a warrant, it cannot be described going forward as a raid, and that it was a search of his home. But we'll bring you details of that shortly. But let's proceed to the energy front, because the Public Utilities Workers Union, PU, they've called on government to, as a matter of urgency, review the contract with independent power producers, IPPs, to save the revenue of the Electricity Company of Ghana. Now, according to PU, ECG pays over 600 million cedis a month to these power producers, which has dissipated the coffers of the company. Meanwhile, the union has also appealed to the management of ECG to be quick in addressing the power outages Ghanaians are facing. General Secretary of PU, Timothy Nyame, spoke exclusively with our Labour Affairs correspondent, Daniel Opoku.
These IPPs have come to stay. They are in Ghana. They are with us. It's not something that they will pray to today and leave tomorrow. So we expect that government should intervene to let them price their power in the cities. This is because of the volatile nature of our currency. For instance, early last year, exchange rate was 10 cedis to $1. But as we talk now, it's about a little over 15 cedis to $1. So you will need to go and distribute power, collect money, and come and change into so much cedis into some few dollars before you pay. So why can't we agree that, look, let us fix the power, let us denominate it in cedis so that we collect the cedis and pay the people and pay the IPPs. Because when there's power outage, it will be difficult for our members to go to the field to go and collect revenue.
So live here on News Central. We're going for our very first break here on the bulletin. When we return, we have a lot more stories for you. Please to stay with us.
Welcome back. Now, some security experts have suggested that operatives of national security wear body cameras during operations. This follows a recent search carried out in the house of the former Bank of Ghana governor, Ernest Addison, which resulted in alleged stolen items. The operatives reportedly disabled the CCTV system before conducting their search in Dr. Addison's home. Some 10,000 cedis on his bed, as well as jewelry belonging to the wife, according to the minority leader, could not be traced. Meanwhile, National Security has revealed to 3news.com that empty money storage boxes were discovered at the residence of the former governor during the search on his home on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. According to national security officials, they had obtained a search warrant before entering Dr. Addison's Roman Ridge home. They claim the operation was based on intelligence suggesting that the former governor was in possession of funds belonging to the central bank. We can now speak to Colonel Festus Abuaje for more on this developing story. Thank you so much for joining us here, Colonel. But first, let's talk about this search, as has been described in certain quarters, as a raid, although there was a warrant in a court order, qualifying it as a search more than a raid in security terms. But I do want to pick your thoughts on how the story has developed so far.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think the choice of captions, either by the media or political or other commentators, is problematic. Because a word like a raid is pejorative. It suggests some use of brutal force, say if you are attacking an enemy by surprise and brutalizing the enemy, eliminating them, whatever it is, which in this case is not the issue, or it's not the case. Mm-hmm. Secondly, there are conflicting narratives. One narrative is a hearsay report that Honorable Afenyo Markin put out. Otherwise, probably nobody would even have known about this case. So what Honorable Afenyo Markin has said is completely a hearsay narrative. Mm-hmm. We've not heard from Dr. Addison. Dr. Addison has not alleged that he has lost money. And yet Honorable Afenyo Markin had concluded that because the money is lost and because, in quotes, national security was there, then the money was stolen by national security. And he goes ahead to describe them as hungry, not well looked after, party tax and so on, which, in all sincerity, with due respect to him, I don't expect him, being the lawyer of the caliber that he is, to jump to such conclusions. Dr. Addison would be well-minded if indeed he had lost property, including money, to make a case to the police, for the police to investigate and confirm or substantiate that indeed the sums of money were lost, mm-hmm. and that they were taken by the operatives who went there. So I think that would be my commentary on that angle.
I see.
Let me come back to the so-called raid. And I would wish to insist, in all humility, that it is not a raid. All jurisdictions have got law enforcement authorizations either to invite people for questioning or interrogation, or to search the persons and properties of individuals. And it is normally done using different methods depending on the situation or the intelligence at hand. So if you have police officers, for instance, coming to your house armed to come and search your house, it is not a raid. It is just that anything could go wrong. Tempers could rise, and if they are not armed, there could be an incident. So they come prepared. So therefore, if national security had gone to Dr. Addison's house, and the Deputy Attorney General has made us understand that there was a court order, and therefore it was a legal activity or legal action. Now, Honorable Afenyo Martin cannot say that it was an illegal activity or illegal action until we know the truth, that indeed what the Honorable Attorney General said is true or is not true. So they go to the house based on what is stated on the search warrant. And as of now, none of us knows what was stated there. Dr. Addison has not told us. Of course, Honorable Afenyo Martin said that the security saw the warrant, and then Honorable Afenyo Martin's wife, Honorable Addison's wife, also saw the bench warrant. But what was stated on the bench warrant, we don't know. So we need to go with what is, going around in social media, that they went there to recover electronic devices.
Difficult now to clarify the
me?
issue, because it's the honorable member of parliament's words against that of the deputy attorney general, and in our case our sources at the NIB. But I do want to tackle the issue of the CCTV cameras removal. There are those who have questioned why that was done.
So I was going to come to that.
Right.
You see, the Honorable Afenyo Martin and others, and I stand to be corrected, have concluded that they have the facts that what was recovered or what was removed was a CCTV camera. Now, I have information on social media, and I've taken time to check with a source from national security, and that is not the case. What I know, which is subject to further substantiation, is that the former governor of Bank of Ghana had devices, electronic devices in his house, electronically wired to the Bank of Ghana, so he could see whatever is going on or was going on at the Bank of Ghana. So that was the intelligence that national security had, and went to the house to recover that device. You see what I mean? So it was an eavesdropping device, which is more than a CCTV camera. But let's even assume that it is or it was a CCTV camera. I could hold the view that because of the investigations going on about our financial activities between the former finance minister and the Bank of Governor and this and that and that, the investigation probably wants to know or wants to certify who have been going in and out of the governor's house, what has been entering and leaving the governor's house. So if there is a CCTV camera, that evidence, that data, that information will be on the storage device.
Indeed.
Unfortunately, the dilemma we are having is that national security, for bad or good reasons, has not come out to tell us why they went there.
Will it be in their interest to do so? Will it be in their interest and the interest of the nation for them to do so?
Well, it's a very serious public interest story. And I think it will augur well for our democracy, because that is what we see on TV.
Right.
If FBI goes to the, President Trump's Mar-a-Lago, FBI comes to tell Americans and the world why they went there and what they recovered. And then they show us the boxes, classified, or boxes with classified material that they say President Trump should not have taken them away from the White House. That is the best practice. So we must learn, if we are practicing any form of Western-type democracy, to keep the citizens informed, and then to lay to rest all of this hullabaloo about legality, illegality, and use of force, and so on and so forth. Look, all of us know that this is not the first time it's happened. In fact, I have heard in the media copious episodes of how in 2017 thereabout, the outgone government conducted similar activities against MPs, against this, against that. It's a normal...
Just briefly, let me draw you back in. Let me draw you back into the focus of our conversation today. We have details. This is what the Honorable Member of Parliament for Efutu has said. That is also what the Attorney General has said. They have a bench, excuse me, they have a search warrant for the exercise they conducted. The other side is saying that it was a raid there and that some stealing had taken place. What then some are suggesting is that we could have put this matter to rest if the operatives wear body cameras. Would you suggest saying?
Well, that'll be fine. You see, we need mechanisms that make all activities of the state, all actions of the state and its agencies as transparent as possible. But I'm saying that it does not lie in the mouth of anybody to caption a state activity as a raid. It was not a raid. I'm coming from the military, and I have a thorough understanding of what a raid is. What happened was not a raid. What happened was a search based on a warrant.
I'm afraid we'll have to leave our conversation here. That's all we have time for, but I do appreciate your insight on the matter. Thank you so much. Colonel Festus Abuaji retired there.
Well, today is World Forest Day, and Ghana is expected to join the rest of the world in celebrating that day. But there are a number of questions being asked in relation to it as to whether or not there is really something to celebrate with respect to the day today. The country's forests have been under attack increasingly from illegal mining and logging, with a recent study by the Ghana Space and Science and Technology Institute revealing the country loses 23 fields of forest cover daily. We know government has laid an LI seeking to revoke LI 2462, which allows for mining in forest reserves. But according to many environmentalists, a lot more work ought to be done to protect the country's forests. We'll hear from them shortly, but let's try and walk you through data with respect to what we know about our forests at this particular point in time. And that's going to come up on your screens right now as to what it is like with respect to the country's vegetation cover and all of that. And so as at 1900, Ghana had what? 8.2 million hectares of forest. Now we only have 1.6 million remaining, an 80% loss over a century. There's an annual loss of 135,000 hectares of forest cover lost every year. Also, we know that between 2001 and 2021, the country lost 1.41 million hectares of tree cover between that period, constituting some 19% decrease in total forest area. And I mean, the reasons why we're continuing to see this is quite known. Illegal mining leads the way, agricultural expansion, and then illegal logging as well. Let's connect right now with Daryl Bosu with Arocha, Ghana. Pick his thoughts on today's celebration and whether or not really there's something to celebrate. Mr. Bosu, I appreciate that you could speak to us and for holding the line as well. We've seen a number of actions by government to safeguard the forest. Most recently, the minister has laid LI in Parliament seeking to revoke that controversial legislation, LI 2462. Is it enough with respect to what we're doing to safeguard the forest? We're expecting as well later the president to be engaged in some activity. We've been planting trees and the likes. Generally, are you impressed with the work that we're doing vis-a-vis the data which suggests we're losing forest cover quite quickly?
Good afternoon to you, my brother, and also to your cherished listeners. I must say that today shouldn't be a happy day for anybody in Ghana, anyone in Ghana, because if you really listen to the kind of data you are putting out there, and also our own knowledge of how much of our forest reserve has been destroyed, and through activities of Galamsey. I mean, recently the Honorable Minister for Lands has been talking about the impact of Galamsey on some forest reserves, and also how even some of them have been taken over by some of these illegal miners. It tells you that the situation is very dire, and we are losing more forests. And then, unfortunately, we are not really doing much. We saw the previous administration talk about or even have an intervention called Green Ghana. But whilst they took a step forward, they took us backwards, 2 steps. So, and going forward, looking at what has been happening for some time now, we had suspected that the new government would take very bold steps. And you did mention about laying the instrument on LI 2462 in Parliament. I mean, contrary to what we had been expecting, a complete repeal of the LI, the government is rather going ahead to do some amendment, which does not solve the mischief that we think the LI 2462 has been creating. So it looks like we are in a vicious cycle, and the situation with the bad state of our forest, the decline is going to continue. And I'm afraid if you are going to continue on this path within the next 2 decades, Ghana is really, really going to have a tough time with having access to all the services our forest reserve provide. So there's more that the government needs to do, and citizens need to put pressure on government to do that. Today, government is launching Tree for Life, and I don't really believe in an initiative like that. If the government is going ahead to pass a law, that does not guarantee the safety of forest reserves in this country. And at the moment, that's the sad situation. And so I think that today, instead of it being a happy day for forest, it's rather very sad that we are really on this tangent, destroying our forests with impunity.
You mentioned that you're not so pleased with the instrument which has been laid. What's been the conversation? A complete repeal, and yet the government is seeking to what? Amend it to a certain degree. What's been the conversation between the current minister, who also we know banned mining for, or revoked the licenses, I should say, of a number of firms who received authorization to enter into these forest areas to mine after December 7. Has there been a conversation to start off with?
Well, you know, the ministry has been quite busy. They have already put out a press release 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, talking about they even going to repeal, and they've been committed to this. And before they came to power, they actually campaigned also on the back of repealing the LI, only for us to get to know that, unlike the Ministry of Lands, the Ministry for Environment is going ahead with an amendment. And for us, that does not solve the problem. So it tells you that between the Ministry of Lands and the Ministry of Environment, they are not really talking, and they are also acting contrary to what the president committed to even before he was elected. And that, we think, is a big problem. At the moment, we from the civil society, the organized labor and other professional bodies have been advocating strongly that this LI must go in its entirety, because it's not just about amending a particular clause, but there are several other provisions that are mischievous and does not guarantee sustainable forest management. And so we think that the government needs to do more. And I can assure you, we are not going to relent on our acts and demands. We are going to push for the government to really do what is needful.
Mr. Bosu, we'll leave the conversation here. Thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Darryl Bosu speaking to us this afternoon. The country is joining the rest.
They are also looking at putting in place measures to make sure that we protect our forest cover. We all know that illegal mining activity has been the bane of our degraded forest. Apart from illegal mining, we also have illegal logging and also other illegal activities. Now, once the government has intensified the fight against illegal mining, the president has also hinted that they will not leave out illegal logging because basically the aim is only just about planting trees, but it is about all resilient.
Well, it would appear we lost Ibrahim.
To make sure that we bring an end to illegal mining. In fact, today he even reiterated that message again, saying that any of government that continue intends doing either legal or illegal mining should leave government and go ahead and do it, else the person will be faced with severe sanctions. So basically, it's assuring Ghanaians that the government should make sure that their fight against illegal mining is sustained and they are bent on protecting the forest cover of the country.
Very well. Thank you so much for talking to us. Ibrahim Abubakar, Ashanti Region correspondent, joined us from the launch of Tree for Life Restoration Initiative. That'll be all for Original Hub.
And back here in the studio, it's time for us to do sports because we know that the Black Stars, the senior national team, they have an important game against Chad later this evening at 7 p.m. And they've been, the team has been meeting a lot of dignitaries from the president to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sports to the sports minister himself, you name it. All of these individuals have come through, spoken with the team, and asking that they put the failures or the disappointment of having failed to qualify for the AFCON behind us and ensure that we can win the game later this evening and then another game later on. Let's bring in Oreku Ampofu with 3 Sports. He's joining us right now in studio. Big game, but I don't know if we can all be so excited going into tonight. Many say it's just Chad, but really, what are the odds which are stuck up against us today?
I think before I get into it, you mentioned a very important point which I want to address. Has to do with the dignitaries that have had
far too many.
I think it's too many. I think there's a line to be drawn. There's a limit to the number of voices players should be hearing, especially before matches like this. If you want them to be locked in, you want them to be focused, they should be hearing just a few voices, technical voices, maybe one leader, the FA president, and it doesn't even have to be recorded. I'm quite surprised that we've had different politicians come in with the media, and it's almost like it's a performative action because the people don't even need to see this or hear this. They can visit them in the hotel if they want to, but I think at the end of the day, the team knows what's at stake, and everyone knows that the World Cup is or has become a very important part of Ghana's history. And the thing about the World Cup is that once you taste it once, you want to go again.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be in this country and missed out on the 2018 World Cup because it had almost become a birthright. We went 2006, 2010, 2014, and all of a sudden no World Cup and everyone was angry. We returned in 2022. Everyone just felt the frenzy. And so it's a tournament that you want to be at. I think that the next World Cup would be such a huge ceremony. It will be such a huge part of football history that as a player, as an association, as a ministry, as a Ghanaian, you want to be able to experience it firsthand.
And not even to mention the connections people draw because that World Cup is in the US as well. Yeah. Let's talk the squad and preparations ahead of the game. We've seen a number of returnees. Thomas Partey has returned to the team as well. You've been in and around the team. What's it looking like in the dressing room? There have been concerns, even in the lead up to this captaincy changes and all of that. Does it come off as so that's affected morale? We've seen the former captain as well as Samoa Gyan heavily present as well.
Yeah, I think Jan's voice was perhaps a good one that they should hear. It's good to hear, leaders past and present speak in the capacity of Stephen Appiah and then as Samoa Gyan. I think it was necessary to put to bed whatever we had with regards to the captaincy issues. And at the end of the day, I think it's just the captain armband. Whether it's Kudus, Jordan, Partey, Jiku, you can lead in your own way by leading the press, by tackling hard, by doing what you're supposed to do. I think that's what's more important. It's just
fixated on the band.
It's just the band at the end of the day. Everyone wants to win for the country. That's what we should be focused on. I do genuinely believe that, as Otto Addo has rightly mentioned, that they've put the captaincy issues behind them, the poor AFCON qualification behind them. It's now time to focus on the World Cup. And I think that overall the vibes in the camp has been great. There's a more relaxed mood, but the work has been cut out for them. Once again, it's almost as if the football gods keep on arranging everything possible for Ghana, because by the virtue of Mali beating Comoros on Thursday, if Ghana wins, they go top of the group by at least 2 points. And that means that now Ghana knows that if they win their remaining games, they qualify for the World Cup. And so it's so plain, straightforward.
It's all cut out for us. But let's hear from Coach Otto Addo, who's been speaking about the mood in camp and what it's like.
We're in a much better position, and which makes things easier. You know, if we would be having 3 points, the pressure is different then. Even though you play maybe against Chad or whatsoever, it's a different pressure, and anything you do wrong on the pitch will be criticized from the spectators. But now, as we have 9 points, we have a good position, everybody's very motivated. Also, because we didn't do well, and we seem to be even more motivated. Everybody's eager to show that we can still do it. I think, like I said before, it helps a lot, the support of the people. When I see the spectators, how they're cheering for the players, when I see the president of the nation coming, when I see the sports minister coming, when I see the FA president having good words for the team, I'm very happy.
Right, and so that's the coach, but let's try and talk possible 11 now. Yeah. We've seen Partey return. That obviously means he'll be in the midfield for us. But what's our lineup going to look like? The goalkeeper position has come up for conversations as well.
Nah, I think it's straightforward. I think it's just people trying to create something out of nothing. Lawrence Atizigi, if he's fit, he's Ghana's #1. Maybe if Manafruddin was around, he could have pushed him a bit. But I think Atizigi will be in goal for us. The defense picks itself. I think Shinla right back, Gideon Mensah left back, centre-back pairing of Alexander Jiku and then Mohamed Salisu. The midfield is where the big problem is, because aside Thomas Partey, Otto has always gone for a 4-2-3-1, so Partey has always had a partner. Elisha is not around, and Elisha is usually Otto Addo's darling boy.
Yeah.
Francis Abu, I don't think Otto might trust him to start. Lawrence Ejekuma is coming for, he's coming for Elisha Uso. I don't think Otto would trust him to start. And so
we might see Partey going alone?
Yeah, I think he might go alone. And because it's Chad, you don't expect them to make too many incursions. And so you don't really need a lot of bodies in the middle. Because Chad are going to park the bus and be very deep in their own half, what I think we're going to see is a lot of attacking players to give the defense headache with movement and all of that. And so I do genuinely see, Partey in front of that back four. And then in front of Partey, something very attacking in the likes of maybe Semenyo, Nuama, Kudus, Inaki, and then Jordan.
Who have been in very good form.
I think Otto has to go for it. Right from minute one, you need to put fear in Chad, because they don't have any confidence. They've not won any game in the qualifier. So you need to make sure that right from the onset, they're reminded that this is Ghana,
playing against.
This is the Black Stars. And there's no better way to do that than with an attacking lineup.
Oreku, thank you very much. That's Oreku Ampofu with 3 Sports there, providing details for us on that big game. I expected a lot later this afternoon. No, it's later in the evening at 7 p.m. And so if you can, do well to be there. Tickets, 200 cedis VIP, but popular stand, 10 cedis, 20 cedis and the likes. Let's go up, share the Black Stars in quite some number.
Let's bring you a quick international news just before we go. The Trump administration is considering a new travel ban that could affect citizens from up to 43 countries, expanding on the restrictions imposed during President Trump's first term, according to officials familiar with the matter. Now, a draft list prepared by diplomatic and security officials includes a red list of 11 countries and citizens would be completely barred from entering the United States. Of the 43 countries under consideration, 22 are in Africa. And let me show you which countries make the list in Africa. You see the red list: Afghanistan, there's Libya in there, North Korea, Somalia. There's also Sudan in the red list. In the orange list, where visa is sharply restricted, we find Belarus, Eritrea, Haiti. There's also Sierra Leone and South Sudan in that list. Yellow list, you find many more African countries, from Angola to Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Chad, Republic of Congo, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gambia, Liberia, Malawi, Mali, Mauritania, and Zimbabwe. Those are the African countries to 60 days to address concerns. Ghana is in one of those nations.
Good news in relation to that. At least you're not doing something which is meaning that there aren't a lot of illegals, so you're doing the right thing and ensuring that people go into the U.S. Via the appropriate route, which is the concern the Trump administration has with a number of these countries, that they haven't put in fact, good enough systems to allow for proper, I don't want to say proper individuals, but people to go through legitimate means to get into the U.S. And so that's one of the many things. But that's our bulletin for the week. You've been looking forward to the weekend for quite a while, and so the weekend is here. Do well to enjoy it. I am Awina Egbeta.
I am Kevin Amano. I'll see you later tonight. Bye-bye.
I wanted to skip your name.